Great to see you all. Happy to be here and talking about what we're doing this cycle to make sure that we take back the House in November. My name is Steve Sisneros. I'm the Director of Campaigns and Voter Contact at the DCCC. I've been at the DCCC for about 3 years now. Last cycle, I was the National Field Director. Director of Campaigns and Voter Contact, what that essentially means is anywhere on the coordinated side, if we are working on a competitive congressional race, I and my team are responsible for ensuring that there is a strong, robust voter contact program. And that includes all different mediums of contact. So it's on-the-ground organizing. It could be digital GOTV, radio, targeted mail, all of these different types of ways of talking to folks and ensuring that they know there's an election coming up and helping them find that reason to participate this cycle. And my goal is to talk to base Democrats, low propensity voters, folks that need that extra nudge. They have a lot going on in their lives, and voting doesn't always take the priority. So for us, we have two missions in my department at the D-Trip. That is to find out who's with us, and generally most of these low propensity voters that we are targeting are with us. And then the second piece of that is to make it easy for them to vote. So everything that I focus on is geared towards those two activities. So for the presentation, I just wanted to give you all basically what the landscape for us looks like. And then I'll talk a little bit about what we're doing this cycle, what we're doing differently, and where that's going to take us. So. And we're going to get into districts, so if there are folks not on the coordinated side, I would recommend not being in this one. But so expanding the map, our chairman, the committee, we have made it our mission to be competitive everywhere this cycle, in as many districts as possible. And what that means is we started out the year, and this is back in 2017, so not this year. We started out with a battlefield of just over 60 districts. And when we released that number and then we released the districts, people thought we were crazy. And just like, there's no way you can compete in these 60 districts. There are districts on this list that Democrats have never competed in. But we saw a path. Since then, we are now over, our targeted battlefield is now over 100 congressional districts across the country. So that doesn't mean that we'll have robust programs in all 100 congressional districts, but what it means is we are going to be working in all 104 districts to make sure that there are strong candidates, that they are running good campaigns, and helping them build all the infrastructure they need to run a successful campaign. And that way everyone has a chance at success come November. So our political team has been doing a lot of work on the ground with the candidates and their teams and helping them build up this infrastructure that they need so that they are viable. And that's the most important piece. We need candidates in these districts for any of the things that we want to do to help them across the finish line. And we've got to ensure that they aren't making early mistakes and they're setting themselves up for success so that all of us in this room, when we come to help push them across the finish line, that they have the infrastructure needed to actually support that extra help. So a lot of these districts are flip districts. It is our priority this cycle, of course. We also have the mission of protecting our incumbents, so that we're keeping a close eye on that. But obviously, offense is where it's at this cycle because we need to take 23 seats in order to win back the House. We have an upcoming special election, which we're keeping a close eye on in Ohio 12. But yeah, there's a lot of work to do, and I'm glad you're all here to help with it. So recruitment, people are stepping up all across the country to run for office. The primaries have been great for the process. They have been great for the candidates. There are a lot of first-time candidates who have never run for anything before that are stepping up and putting their name on the ballot. And these primaries have been a great process for them to work out the kinks in their systems and their campaigns, and I think have been a very rewarding process for a lot of folks. And so great candidates all across the country multiple candidates in all our districts. Big primaries coming up in June 5th, so we got a lot to watch there, especially in California. But with recruitment, typically this is one of the harder things to do to ensure that we have a strong candidate in all of our targeted congressional districts. It's usually a big lift for the folks, but this cycle we haven't had that problem because we have someone in the White House who is motivating a lot of folks to step up this cycle, which is really great. So, like Adrian said earlier, a lot of open seats across the country. Incumbency is a really strong shield that's hard to break through. But an open seat, anything can happen, and ensuring that we are there, we are present, and we're and helping build that infrastructure is really important in these open seats. And so I think this number might have changed slightly. I think we had one or two other Republicans in the last couple of days say they're no longer running for office. So this is where we are right now. This is the list that kind of drives us forward, the red to blue list. These are all Republican-held districts. And a lot of, for the majority of these folks, we are adding them to our red to blue list after the primary. In some cases, we're adding folks to the list before the primary. It just depends on the unique situation. But this is generally where we're going to be focusing a lot of our efforts for the cycle. Not only for our where we're focusing the efforts on making sure helping these candidates run really strong campaigns, but also where my team is going to be doing a lot of work to build on-the-ground organizing infrastructure, to deploy new tools, especially new tech tools and training so that they know how to use them in a strong way, but also where we'll be focusing a lot of our voter contact in. Now, not all of the districts, like this list is going to continue to grow. This is where it is as of right now, as of today. It's going to continue to grow over the next couple months. And I can say, I don't know how big the programs that we'll be investing in all these districts will be, but we will have a presence on all of these districts, and that's something that's really important that I feel for laying that groundwork. So a couple things that we are doing differently this cycle. Last year in February, we decided for the first time ever to invest in organizing capacity in Republican-held congressional districts, February in the off year. So we were able to make the decision, get folks on the ground, started working within 2 weeks, because last cycle I made the chairman, myself, and folks at the committee made it a priority for us to recruit local staff and talent to ensure that we're building up the local folks to do good work in their own communities, that we're not deploying folks into these districts as much as possible. So we had, in 100% of the districts where we had a field investment in, there was local staff that were doing work in that congressional district. And because of that, we were then able to, from November to February, then hire up these folks again in February to start doing organizing work on the ground to push back against these congressional Republicans and hold them accountable for all the crazy votes that they were doing in Congress. And so February of last year, we had organizers in over 30 congressional districts across the country. That number continued to increase throughout the year. By the end of last year, we were in over 50 Republican-held congressional districts. Something that was very exciting for me, because as coming from field, that's my background. I know organizing is so important, and you always want to start early, and knowing that building these early relationships is so key to success, and but you never get the resources to do it. But our chairman and the committee decided it was a priority this cycle, especially with all the new activism that was happening across the country, that there was a need for additional support in these congressional districts. So. Now, as we're in the on year, we are starting to deploy additional resources. Something that's different this cycle is that there is going to be a digital organizer in all of our targeted congressional races across the country. And these folks are essentially just there to help take all the best practices that we know work with our traditional organizing and put them on a digital landscape, apply them to where folks are digitally. So new tools, social media, making sure that not only are we talking to folks on the ground and trying to reach them on the phone. We know it's getting harder and harder every day to reach folks on the phone, but we are talking to them where they are, right? They are on social media, they are browsing the internet, and everyone has a cell phone. Less and less people have landlines. So we want to make sure that we have the tools necessary to meet folks on these new and different mediums. In addition to digital organizers, in every congressional district, we will also have constituency organizers that are focused on organizing in whatever communities make the most sense for that congressional district. So this is where we are hyper-localizing our field programs and hiring organizers to build early relationships with these community groups, these communities of color, these folks that have been doing work in these communities for long before we've been there, to ensure that they have a strong relationship, not only with the party, but also with our candidates and our candidates' campaigns. So constituency organizers are a big part of our organizing program this cycle, in addition to our traditional organizing, which we're also making those investments on a rolling basis over the course of the year. And then another big thing, and this is really just speaks to our long-term investment in community infrastructure. We are making a big investment in voter registration this cycle as well. Voter registration is hard. Thank you. Thanks, folks. Voter registration is hard to do. It varies from county to county, from state to state. But we know it's important, and we are making it a big priority of part of what we do, because a lot of these districts that we're competing in, we start at a disadvantage. Both at an organizing disadvantage, and also at just a sheer numbers. The structural advantage. Republicans have a lot more registered voters in a lot of the places that we're going to be competing in this cycle. So we need to do early work to make up for that. And so we launched voter registration programs in February. We're doing this both on the ground and online, and we have a goal nationwide to register hundreds of thousands of new voters in over 50 congressional districts across the country. So that's something that I'm very excited for, and the team on the grounds are working very hard to accomplish. So voter registration is a big priority for us. And all of this will be happening in our red to blue districts and in some of our most competitive frontline races, which are our incumbents. So just to give you all an idea of how things are shifting and how the environment is shifting, we are constantly collecting data from these districts. And I wanted to highlight a couple of places where we've been chasing for a few cycles now, and haven't quite figured out how to crack. But the environment is already shifting in a large way. In Colorado 6, at the end of 2016, Republicans held an 8.8 point advantage. In early 2018, that had swung all the way to a D+5 in polling that we have done. In Iowa 1, there was a 13.6 point gain, where it swung from Republican +7.5 to D+6. New York 22, which is, it was highlighted earlier by Swing Left. This is a district that we competed in pretty heavily last cycle, but a tough district. It is not an overwhelmingly Democratic district. It truly is a battlefield district for us. There was a 12.2 point gain from going from R+6.2 to D+6. And then in Utah 4, again, another very tough district, one that we've been chasing for a couple of cycles now. It was Republican +13, but now it's only Republican +3. And with good candidates who have strong local ties, that +3 is easy to make up. And so very excited with where things stand. But with that being said, this doesn't mean that we feel like taking back the House is going to be easy. We believe we're going to take back the House, and that's what we're working towards every single day. But we know that there's so much work to be done in all of these districts to ensure that we make it close. And for those of you that have a field background, you know that field margins are slim. Anywhere where we are investing in voter contact, organizing on the ground, GOTV communications, that those margins are pretty slim. We can only move the needle a couple points. And so that means that we have to do a lot of this work to lift the vote as much as we can before we get to GOTV. And so that's where voter registration comes in. That's where the early community organizing and community building work comes into play, and the coalition building making sure that all the new groups that are doing great work out in these congressional districts are all moving together with the same plan. And honestly, our goal is the same. We want to take back the House in November. We want to send more Democrats to Congress, and working together to ensure that we are in lockstep is really important and been a priority for us, which is why we decided to place organizers in February of last year in a lot of these congressional districts. Upcoming primaries, I think something that I want to highlight that a lot of you probably know that's really important for us is June 5th. It's a big date. In particular in California, there's a lot riding on what happens in California. We have 2 open seats in pretty strong, I would say Republican strongholds is a good word for it, but also Donald Trump is not a very popular person in these districts. But at the same time, there are multiple Republicans running, and they're splitting the vote. There are lots of Democrats running. They're splitting the votes, and California has a top 2 system. They call it a jungle primary, where whoever the top 2 vote getters are who move on to the general election. And so we have a chance. There's a pretty good chance of us getting locked out in these congressional districts, especially in Orange County, in California 39, and in California 48, and California 49. So it's 39, 48, and 49 are ones that we are focusing on pretty heavily. But upcoming primaries are really important and something that we're doing a lot of work in right now.